So he's alive.
Yes. Gods be good.
Well, my time is short and I have need of an army. Perhaps you might place a feather pillow over his head and speed along your inheritance.
Gotta love the open disdain for weakness. Howdy all, I'm Adam the Renaissance Nerd, and welcome to my review of House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 4. I'm going to title it, Things Actually Happen. Yes, last week I went on and on about, can we just get to the events that are being set up, and I was told, Adam, every little part that's happening in Episodes 1 through 3, every little bit matters set up. I can see that, but I still will say a lot of the parts in Episode 3 were unnecessary. The things that happened here, the supposed emotional impact of these events in this episode, some of those things that were reiterated for the third time in episode 3 didn't need to happen in order for these meanings to have the same power that they had. And listen, I've already seen, unfortunately, because I try to quarantine myself before I do my reviews, but I'm keeping a very weird schedule right now. So sometimes in these review days, I cannot help but catch glimpses of people's reactions to stuff. I don't go too deep, but I see glancing blows, a few strays here and there. I got to dodge, and I hear how people are responding. There are those out here who think this episode is the greatest thing ever. And it's awesome, it's great. It was okay. It was okay. The show finally delivered on something, and it did it with some quality, but it wasn't the most epic thing in the world. And I'll make my case for why I think it's well done. I think it got its point across. They stuck the landing, but I'm not in awe. And remember, guys, I'm doing these reviews as somebody who has no horse in this race. I am sitting here, or sitting back, trying to take it all in and looking to be entertained. And I continue to be mildly entertained. I'm not in love with this world. Nothing happens in this series that makes me fall in love with this world or care about these characters who do horrible things to each other and have horrible things done to them. And therefore, I'm simply trying to give you my objective take. And right now, my objective take as we start this review is, it's good. It's not great. It's good. And it could have gotten here faster. Anyway. Right, so let's get into it. I'm going to do the review slightly different than normal. We're going to deal with Daemon's stuff first because his part in this episode is completely detached from the other events of the story, which all have intertwining paths. Therefore, I'm going to do Daemon. Going to be real quick, make some commentary on that, because Daemon's stuff is set up for next week. And then we're going to talk about everything leading up to the battle at Rooks Rest. So here we go. Hot D, Season 2, Episode 4. I don't know its title.
Stop.
Daemon's part in all of this, as I said a moment ago, is set up for next week where he's going to apparently start to make some power plays for himself rather than Rhaenyra. Daemon is having another nightmare dream vision. Last week, we saw him seeing younger Rhaenyra, Millie Alcock's Rhaenyra, and I thought that last week his vision was all about him seeing the Rhaenyra he actually cared about, but, it looks like I was wrong. I was wrong because here she is, again, taunting him in dragon speak. Is that what they call it? Dragon speak? I don't know. Taunting him in dragon speak, basically saying, hey, guess what? You made me what I am, and you hate me for what I am because I took everything that what you think belonged to you, and that your brother loved me more than you. And it basically has Matt Smith. he does the best acting in this episode with his limited appearance. Because Matt Smith has fantastic range. Right here in this dream sequence, you see the horror, the shock, the fear all across his expression. And it's brilliant. You feel it. You're pulled in. You're understanding, goddamn, this is the side of Daemon we never see. The weak Daemon. The Daemon that's got fear in his heart of either his... Of him either being the cause of something horrible or for wanting to do a horrible thing, like, decapitate Rhaenyra and take her crown. So this is fantastic. It's a great little snapshot inside the workings of Daemon, because he'll wake up, he'll be woken up because her head's going to talk to him while it's on the ground. It's going to talk to him, but it's going to be the voice of somebody from the real world, and he's going to be told a raven is coming. For a moment, he'll see blood on his hand as he wakes up from the dream vision, but then he'll be pulled into the real world, and now he's going to be dealing with the Liege Lord's representative, his grandson. I showed you in the opener for the review, he basically has complete disdain for the weakness, says, well, just kill your grandfather. Kill your grandfather, take his power so I can use you, because I don't want to wait. I need an army now, because I've got bad guys coming to take over Harrenhal and take the land. But the little boy, who is obviously a good person, doesn't want to kill his decrepit grandfather, can't do it, and is shocked that Daemon wants him to commit, I don't want to say patricide, but grand patricide. And Daemon just says, all right, we're done. Get me the guys who were fighting the other guys, because they look like they're ready for blood. Make me meet them. Now, we're going to skip ahead to Daemon's next section, where he's going to wake up in the middle of the night having another vision. He keeps having these visions. He's going to follow what appears to be an older version of Aemond, because he gets a look at him, and it's not current day, but there's the eye patch and all that stuff. And at his heart, Daemon knows that Aemond is the one to beat in this war. So, of course, maybe him chasing after a specter of him means something. That's just me speculating. We get to Daemon arriving in the kitchens, and here's the chick from last week who told him, you're going to die here. And she's basically making potions, making stuff, messing around with alchemy, I guess. I don't know. She's the stand-in maester, he says, and she goes, yeah, basically the other guy ran away, couldn't handle it, and it was left to me. My name is Alice. I think she said her name is Alice. And she's very snarky, very verbally combative with Daemon, doesn't let him get the upper hand in the conversation. And it's a nice little exchange, because it's showing somebody who has zero fear of him. Everybody else in Harrenhal has some level of fear of Daemon, and this chick has none. Maybe because she's foreseen that he's going to die and knows that he poses no threat to her, or perhaps she just doesn't give a shit. And either way, it's an interesting exchange, as she basically tells him, you're kind of wasting your time here. These people are useless. Everybody's afraid of you, but you need to stop worrying about them and worrying about what's eating you up inside, because you're falling apart, my dude. And he doesn't like that. Yet he still takes a beverage from her. He takes a beverage from her that is supposed to let him sleep, and he drinks it, and then suddenly it's the next morning, or maybe later the next day, I don't know. The point is, he blacks out. And suddenly he's at the meeting hall, and the representative of the dudes who are happy to fight for them are there, making the demand of him, saying, if you take your dragon and wipe out our enemies, you've got us as the foundation of your army, of the river folk, riverland people, whatever they're called. And Daemon, for a moment there, realizes, oh shit, I have no idea what the fuck's going on. What happened to my time? And he tries to cover it up and does a very poor job of it, but kind of manages to rein in the conversation and still hold a little control. But it's very apparent that he's not on solid footing, and he's starting to fall apart. He's even seeing images of his dead wife, in his previous one, Corlys's daughter. So he's really starting to lose it. And that's what these segments of Daemon was all about. Daemon is starting to lose it, as I can see it in this show. He's starting to lose it. His naked ambition is being laid to bear for everybody to see. There are no ifs, ands, or buts. He doesn't want to serve Rhaenyra. His visions are telling him he doesn't want to serve Rhaenyra. And also, there is a little mysticism put in there. The chick Alice tells him about how their forebears came here and did this as that, and the castle's always been cursed, and then even the very bed he sleeps in is made of wood that invokes visions, and she taunts him about having visions. So there's some mystic shit going on here playing with Daemon's mind, and it's making him fall apart a little bit because Harrenhal is a wreck. It's an empty skeletal mess. There is no way to defend it. He has neither the money nor the resources to make it defensible in the time he needs before Cole's army finishes what it's doing and turns the attention towards Harrenhal and marches there. So Daemon has a problem with himself and with the reality and the situation he's in, and the show does an excellent job of portraying it. And Matt Smith shows the full range of emotions. Utter fear, utter shock, to plain old, back to normal Daemon, dismissive, arrogant, narcissistic, doesn't give an F about anything. And he pulls it off at every moment, and it's a shame that we had so little of him in this episode. As I've said in previous videos, he is one of the two anchors in terms of gravitas and power. Him and Rhys Ifans, they are, in every scene they're in, every situation they're in, the anchor of all the acting. Everybody has to play off of them, and that's how you know you've got a powerful performance going on, when one individual makes everybody else be better. Right, so on to the war!
Follow the coastline.
I realize you were neither born nor bred anywhere near the Crown Lands, my good Lord Han. But Harrenhal is to the west.
Indeed it is.
Okay, we begin the preamble to the war. Little things are happening, things are moving, but this first scene over at Dragonstone, it kind of reinforces what I've been saying since the last review. You do not need to repeat the same things over and over again, especially when they're about to happen. You could have cut out every single excessive Rhaenys and Corlys discussion about power and duty and this and that in the previous 2 episodes and have it happen right here. Could have it just happened right here and still accomplish the point of Rhaenys' struggle. And no, yes, I know I've been getting her name wrong for a couple reviews. This is me not caring. Anyway, so you don't need to filler everything to extend the time. Episodes previously could have been tighter and cleaner if we didn't have all the stuff about Rhaenys, which gets covered right here, where it begins with her basically confirming that Alan is Corlys' bastard. And then Corlys comes out, and she has to have this whole thing about, why are you embarrassed about him? You give him some respect, this and that. That's a little bit of waste of time, because we already figured this shit out. And here's my problem, as I said. They're going to have another conversation about duty, about the crown, about how they're supposed to make sure the war is won. And we have a problem in this conversation, though, because they inject, once again, Corlys is asking, where's Rhaenyra during all this? And Rhaenys goes, oh, she's off trying to stop the war. I have a problem with the way this show has women talk down to men who are trying to do it the right way. I have a problem with that. I think it's executed poorly because it sounds condescending. That Rhaenys is always constantly lecturing everybody about, don't you understand? She's a woman. She's doing this. She's doing that. I think it's a poor character building tactic and character execution tactic. But they did it again. But all this conversation here happened already in previous 2 episodes. So here we are again for the 4th time in 3 episodes. Guess what? It could have all been done here. Didn't need to waste our time within previous episodes. Kind of made my point. Anyway, we have to go to King's Landing before we get to the Dragonstone Small Council. We've got Alicent. Now, here begins Alicent's mini arc in the episode, which has a great culmination, but I think overall it could have been executed a little more seamlessly. I have a problem with most of this first part of it, where the Grand Maester comes to bring her some abortion tea, which she pretends is for somebody else, but I think she knows that nobody's being fooled here. It's for her. But she's questioning him about Viserys' mental state. Did he confide in the Grand Maester in his final days? Because now we're having the fallout of her learning that she effed up, that she screwed up putting Aegon on the throne, and now she's dealing with it by trying to research Viserys' state of mind, conversations prior to his death, and also histories, because now she knows about the Song of Ice and Fire, but it's not actually written anywhere, so she's digging deeper and deeper into books. Problem is, as I said in this exchange right here, it's kind of a wasted exchange just to make us see that she drinks the abortion tea because she's preggers. You could have cut out part of it and just done the abortion tea and moved on, because later on, her following discussions about the necessity of the war, her choices, what are choices, it's much better later on. Before we get to that later on, we now have to go back to Dragonstone, where that small council is basically bullying poor little Bela, is her name? I don't know all their names. Their names are weird, and they all sound the same. She's getting bullied by the council, and they're also trying to bully Strong Boy number 1. And eventually Rhaenys comes in and starts to lecture them all, but it's just more, all I'm hearing is wah, 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 wah. That's all I'm hearing. Good performances, but as far as a character work, all I'm hearing is Charlie Brown wah, 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 because Rhaenys is annoying, until Corlys comes in, and then they all want to heed what he has to say. Poor execution once more. Oh, no one listens to the women. They only listen to the man when he comes in. We get it. How many more times do you have to do this? This is the weakness of this show. They keep bringing this shit up over and over again, where they've already made the point that no one listens to women. And in fact, when they do listen to the women, all it does is F shit up and make things worse. You got that point across. You don't need to keep hammering it home. Corlys tries to set them straight, but they still bicker because nobody knows where Rhaenyra is, and they can't decide on what to do because they know now that Cole is marching through the lands. He's building a bigger army. Everything's falling, and they want to bring out dragons, but they can't bring out dragons without Rhaenyra to give them the order to bring out dragons. What do? Where's Daemon? Daemon's not communicating. He's stuck in Harrenhal. We know now that Daemon is purposefully doing his own shit. He doesn't want to communicate them because he's having his own power grab beginning over there. Right. They mention Cole, and then it fades and cuts into Cole, who has won another battle. We see another aftermath battle. Fine, I accept it, considering we're going to get some actual action set piece later on. I accepted that, knowing it was coming. Cole is basically saying, join us or die. They execute the Lord because he doesn't want to bend his knee. Apparently, this is the father of the dude that went with Rhaenyra to King's Landing. Execute him, and then everybody bends the knee, and Cole is going to change direction because he gets a letter, and we get the idea that there's another plan going on. Cole isn't making the decisions here. It doesn't become apparent till later. He's merely executing a plan devised by Aemond. Aemond is calling all the shots. It's going to become extremely apparent in the next scene, where now Cole is heading to Rook's Rest instead of Harrenhal, and Hightower Jr. doesn't like that idea, but he has to bend the knee because Cole's in charge. He's the hand and in command of the forces. Back in King's Landing, here is a fascinating scene, executed beautifully. Small council. Aegon is flipping out because he is in over his head. He has no idea what's going on. He realizes that everybody on the council, they're not listening to him. They don't care what he has to say, and they frankly ignore it because he's saying, why aren't we doing this? Why is he going to Rook's Rest? Why is he going to Harrenhal? And you have a moment where Aemond comes up and says, this is what we're doing. That is what we're doing. This is how we win. And then he goes back and sits down. And as Aegon tries to throw a temper tantrum, Aemond starts speaking in dragon speak. Fluent, beautiful, clear, crisp. Aemond commanding the room so that everybody knows that it's just him talking with Aegon, because none of them can understand this shit. And what happens is he lays it all out. You're an idiot. You're a moron. Nobody here respects you. Why don't you just keep doing what you're doing, pretending to be king, hiring your dude bro train to be your new Kingsguard, while we, the actual knowledgeable men in the room, get shit done. So why don't you shut up and go along with it and just take credit for the victory? And it's really punctuated when Aegon tries to reply in dragon speak, but it's stilted. It's halting. He's not fluent. And Aemon just smirks and taunts him with that, backing him into a corner. And it's beautiful because this is how the power play is supposed to be. Show your strength by showing your opponent is weaker. This is where the show does shine. These interplaying moments where one character is completing the relationship arc. This is the end of Aemon and Aegon's arc, as I see it, as I can understand it, where Aegon, as an older brother, tormented Aemon. We saw it in season 1, tormented him, this and that, teasing, this, all the stuff. And now Aemon has the biggest dragon, has the most knowledge, has the most respect, has all the skill, the vision to do all this stuff, the hunger, the true hunger. Not just, I want to cosplay being king, but no, I want to be king. He has all of that right there. And Aegon is frozen, deer in the headlights frozen in all of this. And he knows he's done because he can't affect anything. He is a puppet. And he knows it. And it is a moment going to come later through Alicent that proves it. Because after the exchange in the small council is over, we've got Foot Fetish, who got a little berated by Aegon, but he brushed him off because he knows where the real power is. He goes to see Alicent, who's basically having a reaction to the abortion tea, it looks like, while she's doing some research. And Foot Fetish goes to visit her. And this is a great scene for Alicent, because Alicent, she's trying to research the Song of Ice and Fire, not landing any blows in getting that done. And Foot Fetish notices that she's researching shit. And he tries to push her buttons and get a feel for it, of what she's doing. But Alicent plays coy and gives a great little speech. She gives an outstanding speech here, laying it all out. Nothing matters. Foot Fetish, wait a minute, what do you mean? But people want to believe these things. They need to believe these things. We have to understand where all these things come from. And she said, well, I've been looking into the history. And the history informs us, but it doesn't necessarily change anything, because people are going to believe what they want to believe. And they're going to use that information, that desire, that feeling, that emotion to make their decisions that they always wanted to make. People were always going to support Rhaenyra for one reason. People were always going to support Aegon for one reason. It doesn't matter what the reasons are. All we must care about is that they're going to do it. So therefore, the how and the why doesn't matter. Only the reality that war is inevitable. Dragons are inevitable. There's no avoiding this shit. So it's her. She's more talking to herself, as I see it in this scene, than him, saying, no matter what, even though I got it wrong, even though I screwed up and misinterpreted Viserys' last words to put Aegon on the throne, it doesn't matter, because I was always going to try and put Aegon on the throne. That was just my excuse. I always wanted my bloodline, Hightower bloodline, to be on the throne rather than Rhaenyra, who I consider to be an evil bitch. Doesn't matter. See, this is where the show shines, in excellent dialogue and excellent acting and excellent delivery. All in one moment, no extra prelude, not repeating itself. This was fantastic. And Foot Fetish goes, you're right. You're right. Doesn't matter. All that matters is right now we're going to move towards Rook's Rest. It doesn't matter that Daemon is occupied in Harrenhal, because let him be occupied there. That means he's not messing around with the main war. And I'm happy to let him sit there in my place, because guess what? I think this is actually a line from the small council. He says, listen, Harrenhal, it's more crippled than I am. That thing cannot be defended. I control the money. I control the resources. Let Daemon have it. And it's reiterated in this conversation. The good strategy is let Daemon mess around. Now, whether or not that comes back to bite him in the ass, I don't know. We'll see what happens probably next week with all that. But either way, this is Alicent's strong moment right here, because now Alicent is committed. She doesn't give a shit. And she's going to do something in her next scene that is just, wow. Bad mom. bad mom.
What would you have me do, Mother?
Do simply what is needed of you. Nothing.
When we finally come back to King's Landing after a whole bunch of other stuff, remember, I'm doing things a little out of order because Daemon's shit is still happening. I just isolated it earlier. We have another small council meeting where Aegon is clearly suffering after the embarrassing defeat he suffers to Aemond in their test of wills in the previous small council, where he basically curses everybody out, says, I'm done with all of you, and marches off to his room. And he arrives at his room, and he finds Alicent in there looking for his father's books because she's trying to do her deep dive into the history for Song of Ice and Fire. And the bro train looks confused with them in there. He dismisses them when he realizes, oh shit, she's actually here to talk, because he makes a good statement. I didn't have them burned. I just had them taken away. Trying to make it clear, I'm not a moron. Just why can't you just have some respect for me? And here is the nuts and bolts. Another great moment. And this is where I'm once again going to say, you can have all the setup and payoff you need in one episode. You don't need to keep layering setup on top of setup on top of setup and then have execution 3 episodes later. Everything Alicent does in this episode was set up in this episode. Her new attitude of, I don't care about why anything happens. All that matters is the result. So what does she do here? Aegon is miserable because he realizes he's a puppet king. And he's grasping, trying to figure it out. And he's looking to her for guidance. He's actually having a moment of, Mom, I need help. And you saw it in the clip after a whole bunch of back and forth of her dictating to him, listen, I had been hoping that when you got into the position as king, I knew you weren't ready, but I had been hoping that you would understand that there were men of greater talent and greater influence in charge, and you would listen to their counsel. Yet what have you done? You sent Otto away. You ignore me. You ignore all these smart people because you think you know better. Because you just want to play at being king and not actually learn what it takes to be king. And he looks at her and he says, well, Mother, what do you want me to do? You saw it in the clip. And then she just stares at him and says, do what you need to do. Nothing. And the look on his face, the heartbreak. That is the look of a man who just got destroyed. His own mother has zero faith in him. Now, we've known this for an entire season and a half now, that Alicent does not like Aegon. She thinks he's a screw-up. She thinks he is worthless and he's a terrible human being. But she just had in that speech I just reiterated to you, she had a glimmer of hope that better men would rub off on him, but it hasn't. And she is now basically she's discarded him. And this breaks him in his brain because he wants to go off to war. And everybody's been telling him, no, you can't. You need to stay here. Well, he's going to make that decision in just a moment. But before we get to that moment, we got to jump back to the war itself, where now good old Cole is saying we're going to attack Rook's Rest in the broad daylight. Hightower Jr. is like, what are you, nuts? They'll see us coming. We're gonna get beaten, and they're gonna launch dragons. And Cole goes, yeah, I kind of hope they do. Finally, back at Dragonstone, they're all still complaining about what to do, and Rhaenyra finally returns. Rhaenyra shows up and says, what the hell is going on here? And they have to give her a quick rundown, and they try to belittle her, and she says, well, I was off trying to stop the war from even happening at King's Landing. And Strongboy number 1 says, what are you, nuts? That was dumb, and that was dumb. It was stupid. But she ignores it like a ruler does. She goes, yeah, shut up. All you shut up. We're going to do this now. I now hear what's going on. I now understand, after what I did, that there is no possible way to avoid war and avoid dragons. And she gives a speech talking about how everybody thinks I'm weak. Everybody thinks I'm indecisive. Well, guess what? release the dragons. And they get into a whole big argument about whose dragon it's going to be. Rhaenyra wants to go. No, Strongboy number 1 wants to go. No, Baela should go. Finally, Rhaenys says, it's going to be me. I'll do it. I have the biggest dragon. I have the most experience. Let me go. Little do they know that they have just walked right into a massive trap. We get a good monologue from Rhaenyra, though, during all of this, where she pulls Strongboy number 1 aside and makes it clear to him that the reason that he can't go off is because she now needs to pass on her knowledge of A Song of Ice and Fire. And it's a really great monologue and really great interplayed scene swapping of everybody getting ready. Because during all this, Aegon has decided, well, first, he's very deep in his cups. Rule number 1, don't get deep into your cups and decide to go ride a dragon into war. Don't do it. Not a smart play. Aegon's deep into his cups, decides he's going to get ready and go to war. Rhaenys is now going to go to war, and they have this back and forth as Rhaenyra is trying to impart to Strongboy number 1 the importance of what it means to rule, to make decisions, when to use dragons, when not to, and that there's more than just this war. There's a bigger thing going on. There's more at play, and it's showing all this great scenery, all this great imagery. And she's trying to, and it's powerful. It's not as good as Alicent's speech from a couple scenes ago, but it still works. And it still imparts that Rhaenyra is now committed. Just as Alicent is committed to what she has to do, Rhaenyra is also committed to what she must do. And that means open war with the dragons. So everybody's going to war. Everybody's launching. And now we are at Rooks Rest. And the final 20 minutes, it's all action set piece. Well choreographed. Decently executed in terms of the dragon fighting. I'm going to kind of rush through it because this is something you kind of have to see. I'll show you a clip. I'll show you a couple clips, but you kind of have to see it to understand it, that this is everything everybody feared. Cole's going to launch his assault on Rook's Rest, despite the fact that Hightower Jr. is yelling at him not to. Everything's proceeding as you would think. It's a difficult siege because they see them coming. There's arrow defense. They can't get the battering rams in close enough. And then, boom, they see Rhaenys and her dragon coming in. Right away, dragon fire, wiping shit out. Hightower Jr.'s losing it. Cole goes, don't worry, all according to plan. He sends off a signal. Aemond is waiting there on Vhagar, ready to wreck shit up, but then here comes Aegon on his dragon. I think it's called Sunfire. And he races in there, and this is a great moment of the same fight happens twice with different opponents. Here comes Aegon. Here comes Rhaenys. They go at each other. Rhaenys has way more experience. Aegon is drunk on his dragon, has no idea how to fight another dragon, and she's owning him, beating the crap out of him. And everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. Cole tries to take advantage of the situation, giving a rousing speech. Look, your king is here. He's here to fight the dragon. Rally, soldiers, let's go. And then Aemond had waited. Here comes Vhagar. Vhagar moves in, and for a moment, Aegon thinks Aemond's there to save him, but Aemond's like, oh no, I'm not. And then this happens.
Dracarys!
So what you had there was one large dragon dominating another small dragon using the tactic of grapple, bite, and fire. I guess that's how dragon warfare kind of works in Game of Thrones world. And here comes Vhagar. Bigger dragon than both of them. And Aemond isn't there to save Aegon. He's there to fuck him over. You saw it. Vhagar blasts them both with fire. Now, Rhaenys' dragon gets away, but man, Sunfire has already been torn up by her dragon's claws and now is burned. And Aegon took the fire full blast. So there's Sunfire plummets and is going to crash into the forest. Cole loses his shit, realizing, oh damn. King down. He breaks rank and goes to try and save the king, but that is inconsequential. He's going to get knocked out in the chaos that's about to ensue. What happens now is, okay, Rhaenys could have run away, but because we've now, with too much setup, built up her whole ideal of loyalty to the crown, what's best for the crown, you fulfill your duty, your oaths, and you commit to your choices. You hear, that's her story. No matter what happened, this is the reality I now live in. Instead of running, she chooses to fight. So you've got Vhagar and Aemond and Rhaenys and her dragon, whose name I don't remember, I'll be honest. They're coming at each other. And it's now, as I said a moment ago, the same fight done twice, because Aemond and Vhagar are going to use the same exact tactics on Rhaenys and her dragon that she used on Aegon, except even though she's got the experience, size does matter, because no matter what her dragon can do, it cannot possibly alone inflict enough damage. Because remember, way back in episode 1, Daemon said to her, let's take you, me, and our dragons, and let's go take out Vhagar at once. We've got the two most experienced dragons. Together, we can kill the old bitch. Alone, she cannot. She cannot do it by herself. And it's apparent because there's a grapple, and they're swinging around, they're shooting fire at each other while in the air, and there's just not enough damage being done to Vhagar to even care about it. Eventually, they get separated, and she does enough damage to get a separation and cause Vhagar to hit the ground, but in the scrum of it all, Rhaenys loses sight of Vhagar. And even though she has another chance to get the hell out of there, she chooses to stay and fight, because when Vhagar's on the ground, as I mentioned before, we now have the reality of what a dragon battle means. All forces down there are trampled. All forces in the keep suffer. It doesn't matter who you're fighting for. When dragons are fighting, it is total annihilation, because there's a point where Vhagar is stomping around. She's stepping on her own forces. Now dragons in this universe are not hyper intelligent. It's not classic fantasy dragons who have super intelligence or very old. These are just kind of beasts with some rudimentary understanding of what the humans want to do. So of course Vhagar's not going to care who she steps on, but that's the kind of the point. Dragons are chaos incarnate in this world. They're barely contained forces of nature. And she's just going to dump, crunch everything, and kind of somehow, and I question this though, how does something of Vhagar's size slip into being unseen? Because Rhaenys is going to lose sight, and she's going to try and do another pass, and she's looking around, and then out of nowhere, Vhagar's going to fly up from a corner of the castle and chomp her and get a lock on her dragon's neck. It's a death lock, and it's just going to keep crunching and crunching, not only breaking the bones, but it's probably asphyxiation more than actual neck break. And eventually, and there's nothing Rhaenys can do. She's caught, and she realizes it. I'm done. And eventually, Vhagar ends it, releases it, and then she's plummeting. And it's a great shot of her plummeting and opening her arms. Yep, this is it. Not going to fight it. I did the best I could. I did everything I was supposed to as a loyal servant to the kingdom. Here's my fate. And she'll crash into the wall, and she's dead along with her dragon. Boom. End of Rhaenys, the queen that never was, or whatever the hell her title was. And her story has been good. It's been well presented. It had a few hiccups, a few feminist hiccups along the way, but it was a story of duty and honor and respect. Now, as I said, the whole feminist motherhood shit injected in there, cringe as fuck. But now, it had its proper ending, and it would have been better if you hadn't spent 2 extra episodes repeating the same shit over and over again. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep hammering on that. Right. Battle's essentially over, because with her collapse, she falls on the keep and breaks down the walls, so Hightower Jr. can now lead his forces in there, because Cole's going to wake up, and he's going to keep staggering towards where he saw Aegon fall. And he's eventually going to find the body, and there's Aemond, sword drawn. Maybe he was about to gank what's left of Aegon, but he puts it away because Cole's there. And he picks up the famous dagger, the famous Valyrian steel dagger, and they're both standing over Sunfire, who's still alive and breathing, and there's Aegon's body line right there, and Cole asks, is he alive? And Aemon just says, see for yourself. And he walks away. And I only know because I saw the trailer for the next episode, Aegon is still alive, but he is probably on death's door. And that's episode. We're done. So let's break it down in the next segment. Payoff happened. Congratulations, House of the Dragon. You paid off all your battle war setup in a relatively well-executed, well-choreographed, well-special effects. CGI on the dragons, it's great. It looks good. I personally do not like the dragon design in Game of Thrones. I'm not a fan of dragons with their arms being the wings. Not a fan of that. Never have been. I prefer a quadruped dragon. But that's not here or there. The dragons as they exist, they look well, they look organic, they look alive, I feel everything that's going on there. It was a very intense battle, but I must say, in the end, for all the buildup, it didn't blow my mind. I see the quality, I respect the work, I respect the viciousness, I respect the messaging that dragons do not equal war, dragons equal Armageddon. And that nobody wins once the dragons are replaced. As I already explained in the last segment, when Vhagar and is stomping around, she's killing her own side's troops. And Aemon sure as hell doesn't care. But so nobody's going to win in this because of the dragons. Dragons are only going to make it worse. But I am not falling in love with this. I'm simply not. All I see is horrible things happening to horrible people I don't care about. Some people are crying out there that Rhaenys is dead. I'm not, because I found Rhaenys, even though I've complimented her story arc, I found her to be an annoying character. Aegon is dead, or almost dead. I don't feel bad for Aegon. I won't feel bad for Daemon when he probably dies. I won't feel bad for Aemon when he probably dies, because these characters are all horrible. And it's watching a train wreck. That's kind of what this is. I'm watching a train wreck, and I can't look away because I can respect the beautiful carnage of what I'm seeing here, and I respect overall the hard work and good acting and well-played production. Everything is top-notch. The score of the episode is fantastic. I will say that also. The score sounds great. The music is perfectly haunting and perfectly riveting and suspenseful when it needs to be. But my mind still isn't blown. All this build up to the dragons and their choice of how dragon combat is, it makes sense with the design of these dragons, but to me, it's just not epic. Two dragons swirling around on each other and shooting fire in kind of an embrace, a weird, deadly embrace. To me, that's not epic. It's not epic. That's just my take on that. If you love it, fine. I hope you had a good time. I hope they get better at it as the season goes on. I hope the next round of dragon battles take it up a notch, make it even cooler, more high octane, more high speed, more in your face of, man, I'm really caring. I want to care, but I'm just not. But that's it. Next week, it looks like it's the fallout of Aegon on death's door. There'll be a new question of who's going to take over. And I'm sure it's gonna be a lot of Daemon next week. Daemon on the Riverlands, consolidating his power. We'll see what happens. I don't know what's gonna happen, so I hope my interest will continue to be maintained, and maybe just maybe the show will grab me a little more. And I will also remind you guys, I'm trying to be objective on this. I don't hate it. I don't love it. If you super hate it or super love it, I hope you understand where I'm coming from. It's good. It has its failings. And it could be better, but we'll see. All right. Thank you guys for watching this review. If you had a good time, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, check out everything I have to offer. I'm here to earn your trust and support using facts and logic, and I will see you guys next time. Take it easy. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, check out my gaming channel at Renaissance Nerd Arcade, and follow me on X Twitter under @TheRedNerd. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy.